You're looking to cut through the noise and get right to the heart of a pivotal historical moment.
To really understand the big picture without getting bogged down.
Exactly. That's what this deep dive is all about. Today, we're unpacking, well, a period of huge transformation.
The fall of the Western Roman Empire.
And those dramatic Ostrogothic Wars that followed in Italy. We want to bring you the essential knowledge.
And it's not just about dates and names, is it? It's about how power fractured, how new kingdoms sort of rose from the ashes.
Right, and the ripple effect that had across Europe for centuries. Understanding this shift is, well, it's pretty crucial.
It really lays the groundwork for so much that followed.
Absolutely. So our goal here, our mission, if you like, is to chart this whole dramatic era.
How the Western Empire finally collapsed.
The surprising rise and then the fall of the Ostrogoths in Italy.
And the lasting impact, the consequences of all that fighting.
We've sifted through the sources, pulled out the key moments, and honestly, there are some real twists and turns, some aha moments, you know?
It's fascinating how it unfolds, like a chain reaction. One decision, one event.
Sets the stage for the next, often in ways nobody expected.
Yeah, it's a real study in, like, ambition meeting circumstance, how history gets shaped.
Okay, so let's set the scene. The first big domino falls in 476 AD.
Right. This Germanic leader, Odoacer, he basically decides the whole emperor thing in the West is done.
He deposes the last one, Romulus Augustulus, just a teenager, really.
And declares himself king of Italy. That's a massive power shift right there. End of an era.
But Odoacer, he didn't just completely break ties, did he? Initially, anyway.
No, that's important. He acknowledged the Eastern Roman Emperor over in Constantinople, nominally at least.
But he started acting more and more independently in Italy.
Exactly. And that made Constantinople uneasy. They saw him consolidating power, becoming a potential threat. They didn't want a strong, independent kingdom there.
Makes sense. Now, meanwhile, you've got another group lurking around, the Ostrogoths.
Another Germanic tribe. They were settled in the Balkans at this point.
Technically subjects of the Eastern Empire.
Yeah, sort of. They acted as mercenaries sometimes, but they also, raided when it suited them. A bit unreliable.
So the Eastern Emperor, Zeno, he has two problems. Odoacer in Italy getting too big for his boots.
And the restless Ostrogoths on his Balkan doorstep.
And this is where Zeno gets, well, strategic. Clever, maybe.
Definitely strategic. He basically decides to kill two birds with one stone. He tells the Ostrogoths, led by their king Theodoric,
go deal with Odoacer for me.
Pretty much. Send one problem to solve another problem, and conveniently move the Ostrogoths far, far away from Constantinople.
A gamble, but a calculated one.
A huge one. So Theodoric and his people mobilize. They invade Italy in 490 AD.
And it wasn't easy. Took 3 years, right?
Yeah, a tough campaign. But by 493, Theodoric wins. Odoacer is out, and Theodoric establishes his own Ostrogothic kingdom in Italy.
But again, there's that connection to the East. His rule was, initially at least, under Constantinople's authority.
That was the understanding, yes. And, for a while, things actually settled down. Italy saw a period of relative peace.
But those underlying tensions, they didn't just disappear.
Not at all. The Ostrogoths, naturally, they wanted more real independence. They'd won the kingdom after all.
And the Roman population living in Italy, they still felt Roman.
Exactly. And many increasingly looked towards Constantinople, towards the emperor, which subtly chipped away at the Ostrogoths' authority. Seeds of future conflict.
Okay, let's jump forward. It's 526 AD. Theodoric dies.
And his grandson, Athalaric, is just a boy. So his mother, Amalasuntha, takes over as regent.
Now, Amalasuntha, she was Theodoric's daughter, but she had a very Roman upbringing, right? Liked Roman ways.
Very much so. She was close to the Roman administration, favored Roman culture, and this caused friction.
With the Ostrogothic nobles.
Big time. They saw her as, well, not Gothic enough, too Roman. It created serious divisions within the Ostrogothic leadership itself.
And this internal squabbling, it doesn't go unnoticed.
Definitely not. Especially not by the Eastern Roman Emperor, Justinian.
Justinian. The man with a plan.
A very ambitious plan. His big goal was the reconquest renovation.
Restore the Roman Empire, reclaim the West.
Exactly. He'd already had a major success against the Vandals in North Africa. That proved he was serious, and that his armies, under generals like Belisarius, could do it.
So Italy, the old heartland, was next on the list.
The ultimate prize. And the chaos within the Ostrogothic kingdom, Amalasuntha's pro-Roman stance, then her assassination.
Wait, she gets assassinated?
Yes. And Theodahad, another Ostrogothic noble, takes the throne under suspicious circumstances.
Which gives Justinian the perfect excuse.
The perfect pretext for war. Humanitarian intervention, Roman style. He launches the invasion in 535 AD.
And he sends his star general, Belisarius.
Belisarius leads a fleet to Sicily. At the same time, another general, Mundus, pushes into Dalmatia on the Adriatic coast.
How did the Sicily campaign go?
Amazingly well for Belisarius. Very swift. He faced surprisingly little resistance and took the whole island pretty quickly.
Setting him up for the mainland invasion.
Precisely. Meanwhile, Dalmatia was a bit more back and forth initially, but eventually secured by another Roman commander, Constantius.
So Belisarius crosses the Strait of Messina, Italy itself.
He doesn't hang about. Captures Rhegium, marches north fast. Takes Naples by November 535.
Again, not much resistance.
Relatively little, yeah. It really shows how shaky the Ostrogothic hold was, especially in the south. They seemed unprepared, divided. This lack of serious opposition. It emboldens Belisarius.
He heads straight for Rome.
Straight for Rome. And in December 536, he marches into the city. Almost welcomed. Minimal fighting.
What were the Goths doing? Their king Theodoric had.
He was proving completely ineffective. Totally failing to organize a proper defense.
Which understandably didn't sit well with the other Ostrogothic leaders.
Not at all. They were furious, probably scared. So they did what elites do when things go wrong.
They got rid of him.
Yep. Deposed Theodoric had. And they elected a new king, Vidigus, someone they hoped would actually fight back.
And did put up a better fight.
He certainly tried. He gathered a large Ostrogothic army, marched on Rome, and besieged Belisarius inside the city, starting March 537. A long siege.
A whole year. What was Justinian doing?
Supporting Belisarius. They maintained a naval blockade, cutting off Gothic supplies by sea, and crucially sent massive reinforcements. About 20,000 troops arrived.
That must have tipped the balance.
It did. The siege became untenable for the Goths. In March 538, Roman cavalry pulled off a brilliant move.
What did they do?
They slipped around the Gothic lines and captured key spots behind them. Portus, the port of Rome, and Ardea nearby.
Cutting off their retreat and supplies.
Exactly. Vidigus had no choice. He had to lift the siege and pull back towards those cities.
And more Roman reinforcements are arriving?
Yes, another force under a commander named Narcisses lands further north at Rome, about 2,000 men.
So Vidigus is feeling squeezed.
Very squeezed. Realizing he's being outflanked, possibly encircled, he makes a strategic retreat, pulls his main forces back north to Ravenna.
Ravenna, the Ostrogothic capital, heavily fortified.
Right, so the war shifts decisively north. But now, a new problem emerges for the Romans.
Ooh, what's that?
Internal issues. A rivalry starts brewing between the two main Roman commanders, Belisarius and Narcisses.
The generals don't get along. That's never good.
No, and it wasn't just personal clashes. It started impacting strategy, leading to divided command, disagreements on campaigns.
How did that play out?
Well, Belisarius saw the importance of Mediolane and Milan in the north. He sent a force under Mundillus to take it.
Then did they?
Yes, successfully. By April 538, Milan and the surrounding area were in Roman hands. A big strategic gain.
But Vidigus wasn't going to just let Milan go.
No way. He counterattacked hard, sent a large force under a general named Urius, and he made an alliance.
With who?
The Franks. They sent about 10,000 Burgundian warriors to help the Goths. This combined army besieged the Romans in Milan.
So the Romans in Milan needed help.
Desperately. Belisarius tried to get reinforcements sent from other Roman armies nearby.
But the rivalry got in the way.
Exactly. The other commanders basically said we need orders from Narcisses. Because of the divided command structure, the help never came in time.
Oh no. So
Milan fell, spring of 539. A major setback for the Romans, and largely due to that command friction.
Justinian must have been furious.
You bet he was. He recalled Narcisses, putting Belisarius back in Seoul, supreme command in Italy.
So Belisarius tries to recover.
He focuses on securing the area south of the Po River, captures key forts like Oxmum and Faesulae to block any Gothic moves south.
But just as he's consolidating, another twist.
The big one. The Franks decide to invade again, this time led by their king, Sodebert III himself.
Are they coming to help the Goths this time?
No. In a really strange turn, they first attacked the Ostrogoths, routed them.
What? Then they turned on the Romans.
Then they turned on the Romans. Defeated Belisarius' forces too. It looked like everything was about to collapse for Justinian.
Chaos. How did the Romans survive that?
Pure luck, maybe. A devastating epidemic, probably dysentery, hit the Frankish army.
Disease takes them out?
Weakened them significantly. Theodoric lost too many men, couldn't sustain the campaign, and had to withdraw back over the Alps.
Wow. That bought Belisarius some breathing room.
Crucial time. He regrouped and went back on the offensive against the remaining Goths, focusing on the big prize, Ravenna.
A siege of Ravenna begins.
Winter of 539. Belisarius surrounds it by land and sea, brings up all the heavy siege equipment, catapults, rams, the works, pressure building. Just as Vidigus is completely cornered, though, another surprise intervention.
From Justinian.
Yes. He suddenly offers Vitiges peace terms.
Why? Things were going well for Belisarius.
Because Justinian had bigger problems brewing. A major war was about to break out with the Sasanian Empire in the east. He needed Italy wrapped up fast.
So what were the terms?
Divide Italy along the Po River. Goths keep the north, Romans keep the south.
Did Vitiges accept?
He hesitated. Maybe didn't trust Justinian, maybe hoped for a miracle. But Belisarius wasn't waiting.
He kept up the siege.
And he managed to take Ravenna in May 540. Used some kind of ruse or deception, the sources say.
So Ravenna falls, Vitiges is captured.
Set off to Constantinople. Most other Gothic forces surrender. Looks like victory, right? Game over.
Seems like it, except for maybe a few holdouts.
A couple in the north, like Ticinum and Verona. But basically, Ostrogothic power seemed broken.
But then Belisarius gets pulled away.
Exactly. Right after this huge win, Justinian recalls him, urgent need on the eastern front against the Sasanians.
Leaving a power vacuum in Italy.
A huge one. And the Ostrogoths, they weren't quite finished yet. They immediately started regrouping.
Who takes charge for them now?
They elect a new king, Ildibad, and he proves surprisingly effective. Wins some battles against the weakened Roman garrisons.
Where does he establish control?
Takes back Venetia and Liguria, up in the north. But his reign is short.
Assassinated.
Assassinated in May 541. More instability. They briefly choose a guy named Eraric, who doesn't last.
And then
they elect Totila. And Totila is a game changer.
a much stronger leader.
Much stronger, very capable, charismatic. He immediately starts planning to win back Italy, and he has some advantages.
Like what?
Well, three big things. One, Justinian's main focus and resources are tied up in that war with Persia.
Okay, the empire is stretched thin.
Two, the plague of Justinian hits hard, starting around 542, devastating the empire, killing huge numbers, disrupting everything.
Weakening the Romans even further?
Massively. And three, Totila himself is a skilled general and scores some quick early victories that boost Gothic morale sky high.
So he goes on the offensive.
Right away. Spring 542, he wins a major battle at Faventia, shatters Roman power in the north, then he heads south into Tuscany, besieges Florence.
Do the Romans try to stop him?
They do, at the Battle of Michelium.
Yeah.
But Totila wins again. After that, the Roman generals kind of scatter. Yeah, instead of uniting, they retreat into their fortified towns, which lets Totila basically roam free in the countryside.
Smart move by Totila.
Very smart. He decides not to get bogged down besieging strong central Italian cities yet. Instead, he focuses on the south.
Where the Roman garrisons are weaker.
Weaker and more spread out. He quickly takes Beneventum, then Lucania, Bruttii, Apulia, Calabria. Basically all of southern Italy submits to him.
Wow, a rapid turnaround.
Incredible comeback. By late 542, he's besieging Naples.
What's Justinian's response to all this?
He finally realizes how serious it is. Appoints a civilian administrator, Maximus, to try and sort things out, raise troops. But Maximus fails to relieve Naples.
So Naples falls too.
Falls to Totila in March 543, another huge blow. And Totila now sets his sights on the big one. Rome itself. He marches north, lays siege to the city in spring 544.
Justinian must be desperate now.
Absolutely. His reconquest is falling apart. He makes the big decision to send Belisarius back to Italy.
Belisarius returns. Can he turn it around again?
Well, his return isn't quite like the first time. He arrives back in Ravenna, but with very few troops. Yeah. And they're mostly inexperienced recruits.
Why so few?
The empire is just stretched too thin. The Persian War, the plague's aftermath, the resources aren't there. Belisarius has major logistical problems.
Yeah.
He just can't effectively counter Totila's momentum.
Things keep going badly for the Romans.
Pretty much.
No.
Totila retakes Pisa, Tiber near Rome, and then in 546, he captures Rome again.
Man, does he treat it better this time?
No, he sacks it badly, leaves it even more ruined.
But Belisarius doesn't give up.
Never. He shows that old resilience. While Totila is busy campaigning elsewhere, Belisarius manages to scrape together enough force to launch a surprise counterattack in 547.
And retakes Rome.
He actually retakes the ruined city. A symbolic victory, a temporary morale boost for the Romans.
Just temporary.
Yeah. The reality was, Totila still controlled most of Italy. Belisarius kept pleading with Constantinople for more men, more money.
But it didn't come.
Not in the numbers needed. Eventually, Justinian dismisses Belisarius again. Probably frustrated, maybe scapegoating him.
Leaving another vacuum.
And inevitably, Rome falls back into Totila's hands.
Must is exhausting just hearing about it. Did Justinian just give up on Italy then?
Not yet. He was incredibly persistent. The empire's finances recovered somewhat. The Persian War situation maybe eased a bit.
So he decides on one more push.
One massive final effort. He raises a huge army in the Balkans, maybe 30,000 strong. A really significant force.
Who leads it this time? Not Belisarius again.
No. Command goes to Narcisses, the same Narcisses who rivaled Belisarius earlier. He's quite old by now, but still very capable. He sets out for Italy in 551.
Narcisses marches down through the Balkans, reaches Ravenna.
Then heads south, aiming for the Apennine passes, the key routes into central Italy.
And Totila knows this is it, the final showdown.
Absolutely. He moves to intercept Narcisses. The two armies meet at a place called Taginae, July 552. This is the decisive battle.
How did the armies stack up?
Narcisses had maybe 25,000. Well organized. Heavy Germanic mercenaries in the center, Roman cavalry and archers on the flanks, a reserve on a hill. Totila had perhaps 15,000, mostly cavalry up front, infantry behind.
Totila's outnumbered? Is he hesitant?
Seems like it. He tries to delay, maybe hoping for reinforcements, make some probing attacks on the Roman-held hill, but they fail.
But Narcisses wants to fight now.
He forces the issue. Eventually, the Ostrogothic cavalry, maybe getting impatient, launch a full-scale charge against the Roman center.
Narcisses responds.
Brilliant and brutal. He orders his archers on the flanks to fire, not just at the Goths, but into the flanks of his own Germanic mercenaries in the center as well.
What? Firing on his own troops?
To disrupt the charge, create chaos, or maybe prevent his center from breaking under the Gothic cavalry impact. A hail of arrows from the sides into that melee.
They were?
Devastatingly. Cause huge casualties, total confusion in the Gothic charge. Then Narcisses sends in his cavalry. The Gothic infantry behind can't hold.
The Gothic line breaks.
Completely collapses. It's a total Roman victory. And in the fighting, King Totila is mortally wounded.
The king is killed. That must break the Ostrogoths.
Pretty much shatters their main army. The survivors rally around a new king, Tia. He vows to fight on.
But Narcisses keeps pushing.
Relentlessly. He heads south towards Cumus, where Totila had stashed the royal treasury. Tia tries to block him, gather his last remaining forces.
Another battle.
The Battle of Mons Lecterius, October 552. Narcisses sets an ambush. Another decisive Roman victory. King T is killed in the battle, along with most of the remaining Ostrogothic warriors.
So that's really the end for the Ostrogothic kingdom.
That's the end. The survivors surrender. They agree to leave Italy for good. After almost 20 years, the Gothic War is finally over. Eastern Rome has won.
Narcisses secures Italy, withdraws to Rome. Victory lap.
Victory, yes. But there's one last loose end. Remember the Franks?
Oh, right. They weren't completely gone.
Well, their king, Theodoric, he ignored pleas for help from the last Goths. But he did sort of allow two Alemannic chieftains, Luthri and Budlin, to lead their war bands into Italy.
So more Germanic groups raiding.
They teamed up with some remaining Goths who hadn't surrendered and started raiding around northern and central Italy. Luthri eventually went back north.
But Budlin stayed.
Budlin kept going, even captured a few cities. Looked like maybe another headache for Narcisses.
But then something else happened.
Yes, that recurring theme. Disease. The plague struck Budlin's army, hit them hard, rapidly reduced their numbers.
So Narcisses faces a weakened force.
Weakened, but still fighting. They camped near the Volturnus River, summer of 554. Narcisses marches south to finish the job.
The final battle. How does Narcisses set up?
Carefully. Dismounted his German allies in the center for a solid infantry block. Kept his unreliable Heruli troops back initially because of some dispute. Put his cavalry and archers on the flanks, ready to envelop.
And the Franks and Goths.
They advanced in a classic boar's head wedge formation, trying to punch right through the Roman center. Apparently they thought the Heruli had left, so they charged hard.
They break through?
They actually did penetrate the Roman center initially. Looked dangerous for a moment, but Narcisses reacted instantly.
What'd he do?
Ordered those flanking archers to just pour arrows into the sides of the Frankish wedge, caused havoc, slowed them down.
And the Heruli.
They sorted out whatever their problem was and charged in to reinforce the Roman center just when it was needed. That really disrupted the Frankish formation.
So the battle turns into a close quarters slugfest.
Brutal fighting. Then Narcisses plays his final card, orders his fresh cavalry reserves to swing around and completely encircle the Franks.
Trapped.
Completely trapped. Cut off, outnumbered, exhausted. They were annihilated. The sources say only 5 men out of maybe 20,000 survived.
Total destruction.
A crushing victory. That was it. The last remnants of Gothic and Frankish opposition wiped out. Eastern Roman dominance over Italy was finally definitively secured.
So Justinian did it. He got Italy back.
He achieved his goal, yes. Restored Roman authority, but the cost, the sources make it clear, it was immense.
Decades of war.
Decades of brutal fighting, cities ruined, farmland devastated, the population decimated by war and plague. Italy was shattered.
And even after all that effort, The Romans didn't hold on to all of it for long.
No. Within a few years, another Germanic group, the Lombards, would invade and take large parts of northern and central Italy. Though the Eastern Romans did hold on to parts of Italy like Ravenna, Rome, and the south for centuries more, a lasting but diminished presence.
So there we have it, an incredible period of upheaval, just constant change, shifting fortunes.
A real turning point. The West falls, the Goths rise and fall, the East reclaims it, but at a terrible price. It's a story packed with strategy, ambition, unexpected events.
Yeah, surprising twists all the way through.
And what really stands out is how interconnected it all was. The decisions of rulers like Justinian or Theodoric, the actions of generals like Belisarius or Totila, even the impact of the plague.
It all weaves together to shape what happened.
Absolutely. Which leads to a final thought maybe for listeners to ponder.
Go on.
Just consider the impact of individual choices. What if Odoacer had played his hand differently with Constantinople?
Or if Theodoric had never invaded Italy.
What if Justinian hadn't been so focused on reconquest, or if he'd properly supported Belisarius the second time?
What if Totila had won at Tabinane? Or Narcisses had lost that final battle against the Franks?
Exactly. How different might Italy, and maybe even the whole Mediterranean world, look today if just one of those key moments had gone the other way?
It really makes you think about contingency, doesn't it? How history could have easily gone down a different path. A fascinating, brutal, and incredibly important period.